Alright, before we start this video, I just want to say I made a small mistake in my editing and uploading, and that is that the video before this was actually the 2-week update, and this begins the 1-week update. So we don't have livestock in it when you start this video, but we get there kind of halfway through. I know it's a long video, but I wanted to just get all of the updates all the way to week 5. Just get it all done in one video so you guys are caught up with the Walstad so I don't get confused anymore when I'm uploading. Anyway, enjoy the video. Well, here we are. It's another weekend and another maintenance session on another fish tank. But hey, I love it. I'm not upset about it. That's why I enjoy this hobby. It's actually really relaxing for me. So we've got a Walstad tank here that I set up about a week ago. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll put that little card at the end of the video. Then you can go watch that if you want to see how I set it up and the full plant list. We'll tell you a couple plants that are in here in this video though, because what we've got to do is a little maintenance here. I'm going to do pretty much a full water change on it, and we've got a lot of plants that have melted back, and I think we imported some algae on one of the plants too. So we're probably going to yank that out as well. I'll show you what's going on here. It should be a pretty quick video, but we're just going to clean it up a little bit. Some of the plants have actually taken root. There's soil underneath that sand if you're not familiar with the Walstad. Trim and replant coming up with a water change. Alright, so first things first, our glossostigma seems to be growing in very, very well. It is much taller than it really should be. It was about the height of this plant when I planted them, and now you can see that it's taken off and we've got some pretty tall shoots. So I'm guessing we trim that to force it to carpet out. I don't know. We'll give that a shot and see what happens. It was all yellow when I planted it, and I'm really glad that it did take root and started to green up a little bit. So that's very good. The Rotala Walichi, or Walichi, however you want to say it, it's going to be growing just fine. It is a happy little camper. I'm not going to touch it right now, but you see these little orange tops that are poking up there. Yeah, we're happy with the growth on that. Our repens in the front here growing pretty well, though we do have some hair algae trying to grow on it a little bit. Our Rotala Hatra at the top here is just going crazy. I mean, look at this guy here. So we're going to trim him and put him back down in the water. He's just having a good old time growing, which is good. You see we got another plant floating here. This is that moneywort, and where I planted it, the stem melted. Let me see if I can get in here for you. Come on, guy. So the stem melted on this and it just slipped out of the sand. So we're going to snip it again and stick it back down there, and hopefully that will work out. Our Cryptococcus balisnae here is not doing so hot, as you see. This leaf, it's not attached to nothing because it melted off. And guess what? This leaf, not attached to nothing, it melted off. But don't you fret, because he's planted right here in the corner, and you can see there's a brand new shoot coming out there. So he's recovering. He just melted all his leaves off, so we're going to help him out and remove all of this debris out of here. Now our golden Nasea, I think is how you say it, Nasea. Anyway, our golden plant right here, you can see he's not doing so hot, melting on the sides here. Let's go around to the other side. We have some golden planted over here as well, and you can see it's not doing so hot. It's kind of been eaten by algae. Now the one next to it, it's got a new little shoot at the top, so it's growing just fine. And the one right in front of that, it's growing. Well, no, actually I take that back. That's a separate plant. But with this guy here growing his little shoot, we're going to leave him in there, but we're going to totally remove this plant. I don't see any new sprouts or new growth here, and I just don't want it rotting in the tank. Here's another piece of it here. It's not trying to come back at all. It died. So we're going to yank that out of there. Our floating plants, and I'm going to try and get you a shot here where you're not in a light reflection. Here you go. Here's a good one. You see that our red root floaters are not red. I don't know how this is coming in on camera. It looks pretty good on my side, but you see how they're all black? Now we have some new growth shoots popping out here. So I think the best course of action, here let me show you just a scan. You see a lot of them are just blackened out, right? They're dying. When I did try and remove a little bit of the film off the surface here, I mean, you touch the plant and just the leaves fall off. So what I'm gonna do is go through here, and where I've got new growth like that guy right there, we're just gonna snip everything else off of it except for the roots, and pull all the leaves off and stuff, and just leave that new growth. Red root floaters, they grow really, really fast, so it'll recover and it'll come back. The Salvinia minima is doing just fine, and of course, well, duckweed, it always does just fine. So I'm gonna try something a little different in this video. I'm gonna try and put the head cam on here and just see if it works with music, that you can see what I'm seeing, and maybe I do a voiceover on top of it. I don't know. I'm gonna try something different because I think just the old B-roll with the music thing, it gets old, doesn't it? Let me know in the comments if it's getting old, right? You just want to jump cut to the end. You know, we can do that in our videos. No more B-roll. You tell me what you like. Anyway, I'm going to try something different. It might be a little shaky as I move my head around trying to look at different plants or whatever. If it doesn't work, you're not going to see any of it. We'll just cut to the end shot here. So I'm going to just start trimming here, and we'll see how the video turns out. And you're going to find out if it worked right now. All right, I'm going to start just by removing the stuff I know I need to remove. Plants that are gone, leaves that have melted, that kind of stuff. It's actually pretty easy in a Walstad here because there's no water movement. This one has some new growth on the top. I think I'm gonna let it try and recover. I may snip a little bit. I think what's happening with plants like this is that I might have planted them too deep into the soil and just burned them with that high nutrient soil that's under the sand here. Speaking of, I'm going to go ahead and snip this guy again here. I hate to take this new shoot off of there. Well, maybe I won't. Okay, Mr. Moneywort, back you go. I'm going to try and figure out which leaf this is. Well, I just pulled the whole plant out, so now we can see that the roots are kind of blackening, so I think I planted it too deep and it's trying to melt away. This is the giant corkscrew, and I don't know if it's going to make it, but I will temporarily put it back just to see if it makes it or not. I tried not to plant it as deep, but we'll see if it makes it or if it just dies away. As I mentioned, this golden is going to come out of here. Thinking this one. Well, now that I look at it, it has new shoots. So as bad as it looks, it does have new sprouts coming out that I couldn't see in the water here. Little teeny tiny ones. Alright, well, we will try it. I don't really like your current state, but we'll give you a chance. Maybe another week, since you are sprouting new stuff. And this one here, new growth on the top. Everything else is melted away. I'm going to try and just save the tip of this plant. The Hydrophila pentaphyta seems to be doing just peachy though. I would imagine that this plant took root because there's zero melt. It's all nice and green. I don't know if you'll be able to see in here, but nice firm leaves. Little bit of melt on one leaf. We're gonna snip one leaf off. And get that bad leaf out of there. The reason I wanted to do this tank, guys, is because this is teaching me about which plants just survive no matter what. What are your hardiest plants? What plants work best in what aquascape? What can I use here? What can I use there? That kind of stuff, you know? furthering my education of the aquatic plant realm. And if you have the ability financially to do the same thing, I encourage you to, get some plants, some potted plants. Most of them are about $7 or so, at least where I shop, and that's on modernaquarium.com. Not sponsored or affiliated, but they just got good prices. Your cutlings, or your little cut plants, trimmings if you will, they're going to be about $5. So, get yourself a couple of plants and put them in different scenarios if you have different tanks, and see what works, what doesn't work. I can tell you this Ludwigia Mini Super Red is, I know why this is so popular in the hobby now. This thing is just a titan. He's already sprouting new little sprouts. He took root already, doesn't care at all about being in a stagnant water environment. Even the other side here where I split the plant up, just growing in fantastic. I don't know if that has anything to do with the Walstad method, whether it reached down and it got some root nutrients or not, but he seems to be doing okay. All right, my next step here is gonna be the Vietnam Atra, because this guy here, you're just growing like wildfire. I'm going low with it. Man, that was a nice crisp cut because this plant is healthy and firm. Now I cut it there, maybe you can see these roots. I don't know what my head cam angle looks like, but that's a good spot to cut and trim because we can throw some roots down. And I'm actually gonna cut it again because I see another root node. See, here's another little root. So I trimmed it again because it's just gonna grow right back to the surface quick. And what is this? Is this some Ludwigia? It is. Ludwigia Super Red here is growing out of the water. Let's see if we can find a spot to trim him up. Let's spread him out a little bit. Let's stick him over here. Got another one breaching the surface here. Is this the Atra? Yeah, I think that's the Vietnam Atra. Another one. Tell you what, this Rotala Vietnam Atra, whew, this is a stellar plant. This thing's a warrior. It just grows and grows and grows. Alright, I'm gonna try and do a snip on the Glossostigma here. I'm gonna snip some of the really long ones and try and replant them. We'll see how that goes. They're not carpeting flat, they're standing up a little taller than I thought they were going to. But I never worked with this plant before, so it's all new. They might just melt away for all I know, I'm not sure. We'll see what happens. This one has a little tiny root coming out of it here, where I trimmed it. You probably can't see it on camera, but we'll get him back in there and see if he takes root again. Oh no, I broke my stick. I broke my twig. Maintenance is a pain in the rear on this. Alright, I think our Glossostigma looks pretty good. I think we got one melted plant here. Hang on. So here's our pile of red root floaters. Now while the plant does kind of eat itself to generate new growth, the rot was just beyond belief here. Leaves falling off all over the place. Black roots, black leaves. I didn't want that stuff in the tank, so we did a pretty heavy trim. Some of the leaves even looked kind of okay, but I'm not gonna leave them in there. Red root floater should be a pretty hardy plant. I think it's gonna recover. Let's show you what it looks like in here now. Very sparsely planted. Of course, like I said, the Salvinia minima and the duckweed, it doesn't care, it just grows in anything. But we are, you know, looking now at some very healthy little red root floaters, and that makes me happier. It's also going to allow more light to get down to the stem plants, so I think we're going to be in a better situation to develop this tank. So what I'm going to do now actually is I'm going to scoop all of them out into a net, and then I'm going to drain my water. The reason is I don't want to get all these little plants stuck down in the stems and then they don't want to float back up. When you drain the water, all the floating plants are going to go down and sit under the stems and stuff, and then you fill it back up and they just stuck there. Anyway, I'm going to take them out just to be sure that all of our floaters stay on top. Alright, so we got our water parameters here. pH is a little high for my liking on the Neocaridina shrimp, so we're going to lower that with a little RO water. The ammonia, the nitrite, and the nitrate all at 0, as you can see. It's been that way since I started the tank. There's a very light bioload in there, and there's a lot of plants, so they're sucking up all the nutrients they can. Alright, wanted to show you that the giant corkscrew didn't make it. The roots are all black here, as you see, and it just melted into nothing. So that plant didn't make it, and neither did the cryptococcus balancea, which I didn't get video of, but it literally melted into oblivion, just nothing. But that's not a good sign right there when you've got black roots. It's dead. Everything else doing okay though. Our floating plants have gone crazy up top here, so we're gonna pull pretty much all or most of those out of there, and we'll probably sell them to our local fish store if they would like to take them. Still have just a little haziness in here, hard to see on the GoPro, but just a little bit of haziness. But we're just jam-packed in here. This stuff's growing way faster than I thought it was going to, so we got to try and thin it out or spread it out a little bit. I'm not sure. One thing though that has to go is this marble queen right here in the middle. This big leafy girl here started out with smaller leaves, like you can maybe see kind of that one that's decaying back there and being used up by the plant. But that's how big the leaves were, and I thought, well, it would make a pretty good centerpiece. But as you can see, it has grown out into its submerged state, and it has these really big long leaves, which I didn't know that is how this plant was gonna grow. And it's just blocking my whole hardscape here. I mean, can't even see the rocks. So we're gonna pull it out and put it in the bass tank. And I'm gonna start by getting all this stuff off the surface, and then we'll be back for some little trim updates. Just thought I'd give you a tip. If you're gonna do floating plants, do just one type of plant. I painstakingly, over the course of about 45 minutes to an hour, have separated the Salvinia minima from the duckweed. Now, a lot of people hate duckweed, and I think I know why now, but I'm gonna figure out what to do with them. Just thought I'd give you a tip here. Separating this was not fun, but if you're gonna put something back in, just go with one type. That way you can scoop it all out and you know it's all one type of plant. Now, let's go ahead and see how dirty the tank's gonna be when I uproot this marble queen. Come out of there. don't know if you guys can see the lump. All right, there we go. Jeez, look at the size of this thing. All right, I'm gonna trim it up a little bit here and then replant it. We gotta fix our dirted, sandy area here. We don't want those nutrients leaking in. I don't know if I can push it back there. On a side note, the glossostigma is starting to carpet. You can see right here under that cherry shrimp, it's starting to spread out. I can see it back here too, spreading out, so that's good. Our carpet's probably gonna come in. I think I'll trim the glossostigma as well while I'm in here, just to force it to run instead of growing up. And for our sand here, I think I'll add a little more sand here in the back. Cover that dirt back up. Yeah, I think it fits better in the bass tank, don't you? Okay, don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of algae up here on the very top of this Ludwigia Super Red. So there's a little spot where a new node is growing out of it, and so I'm just going to snip the tip of this plant off. Once you are comfortable knowing that you can grow plants, you know, sacrificing some stuff like this gets a little bit easier for the soul. I'm gonna start thinning some things out here. I think I've made a decision that this jungle val in the back over here, it's already got a new runner right there that's coming out, and I think it's gonna be too much for this tank. It may start taking over. This is another good candidate for a bigger tank like the 75 gallon, so I'm gonna try and uproot this and put it in the bass tank as well. All the other stuff that I'm gonna do is essentially just, let me get a pointer here. On the S-repens here, you can see there's like a little bushy spot down at the bottom and then the bushy spot at the top. So I'm going to snip and replant these and keep them down low in here. So we'll get that planted and redone. Here's another one over here. So we're going to get that stuff done. Obviously here on our Rotala H-Raw, it is going from its immersed state to its submerged state. So I'm going to try and trim a lot of these little leaves off. It's going to be like the round ones. Can I get a shot for you? These round ones here. Kind of trim this section off here and replant it. And just kind of go through. I know we've got some Walichi here, or Wallachai, whatever. Walichi I'm not sure how you say it. But we're going to replant that stuff as well. Kind of trim it up. I'm not going to bore you with all the trimming. You'll see it in the final result here. So I'm just going to put some music on, zen out, and trim this up, replant, and just kind of rescape this a little bit. And here we are, guys, another week later. So this is week 5 now. You can see after all the trimming, everything is starting to grow back in again. But look at this carpet right here. This glossostigma, I'm super impressed with it. Might be my favorite carpeting plant. This thing is just, you know, awesome. I wanted to say another word, but for sake of YouTube, it's awesome. Everything else is growing in just perfectly. And we finally are getting clear water, which is just fantastic. Now, I did make a change to the floaters on the top there. I just took them out. If you watch the next video, you'll see that I'm going to propagate them in separate tubs. But here we are, guys, kind of what I would say final result for the grow in and, you know, everything just kind of settling in. So we are doing good. All the little cherry shrimps, they're just enjoying everything. They've been keeping it nice and clean. Now we still have a little surface film. Every week I do just a little skim. So not gonna lie, every week I have been cheating and I've been skimming this surface film. Let me get a better shot. There you go. You can see it in the reflection of the light there. But I've had to skim the surface film. It's just gotten ridiculous. But as you can see, speaking of ridiculous, we've got to trim our Ludwigia Super Red Mini again. I love this plant. That thing is just awesome. And our our Rotala Atra there is also going to need a trim. So about every week, don't forget the money wort, it needs a trim as well. So every week we got to trim it up, but yeah, that soil really does grow in plants, let me tell you. No filter, no CO2. All I've done is just cheating with a little surface skimming. Water cleared up all by itself. Took like 3 weeks to kind of clear up. Well, maybe 4 weeks really to get all the cloudiness out, but now she's looking fresh. Whew, and there you go, guys. That is the full update on the Walstad right here. All the way up to literally today, or whenever you watch this video. I'm recording this outro in real time. How do I say this? It's the most recent outro on the Walstad, so anything coming up in the future will be in real time moving forward. So I do appreciate you guys watching the video. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the thumbs up button. I know it was kind of long. Maybe the trimming section was a little long in this video, but for those of you that wanted to sit down and really see the progression of this Walstad, I know a lot of people were interested in it and kind of how it was going to go. So I kept the editing kind of to a minimum. I wanted you guys to get the full experience of that Walstad setup in case you were interested. So that's what's happened with the tank since we got it going. And it took a little bit of work and a little worried in some spots, and we did lose a couple of plants, but I think the end result is awesome. Now we're not done with it yet because you know I'm never happy. The next video on this Walstad is actually going to be a rescape. What? After all that work, you're going to rescape it? Not really rescape, just kind of rearrange plants maybe. You'll see why. It's going to look awesome. All right, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Sub if you want to see and follow this Walstad as well as my other tanks that are now off because I'm doing this edit at 12:30 at night. We had to turn this light on just to get you the shots. But enough rambling. You guys have watched enough of this video. Thank you so much. See you on the next one.